Welcome to Credit Recovery, the show that advocates for the empowerment of Canadian consumers, promoting financial literacy, discussing all topics of credit, finances, career, and businesses, and more. I'm Kevin Hodge. Today we're talking about disputes versus paralegal-backed audits. So we want to jump right into this. So can you opt out of credit reporting? Or can you withdraw your consent to report information to your credit report? Short answer is yes, with a few rules. Okay. Rule number 1. Organizations are required to obtain individuals' consent to lawfully collect, use, and disclose personal information in the course of commercial activity. Rule number 2. Individuals can withdraw consent at any time, subject to legal or contract restrictions and reasonable notice, and the organization must inform individuals the implications of the withdrawal. Rule number 3. Personal information that is no longer required to fulfill the identified purposes should be destroyed, erased, or made anonymous. So withdrawing your consent from credit reporting is when a consumer has elected to opt out of credit reporting disclosure. And I'm going to give you a few tips on how to challenge and understand the language of consent and credit reporting. You want to ask yourself, a few questions. Did anyone go through the agreement with you or point out the consents and consequences of consenting to their use or sharing of your information? Do you have a copy of your credit agreement or a contract? Does your agreement mention your consent to use personal or credit information? Did it also state that they could or would be providing such information to a third party such as a credit reporting agency? You could also ask, was your consent a requirement of the approval of a credit contract? Another question that you can think about was, were you told you could withdraw your consent or agreement? And if so, on what terms or penalty? Did the agreement or an employee tell you about the penalties or the consequences of withdrawing your consent for them to disclose your credit personal information to third parties such as a consumer reporting agency? So these are a few questions you would want to ask yourself when you're looking at challenging the language of consent, which might speak to opting out or withdrawing your consent. Our process is paralegal backed, and you can ask the credit repair companies if they do that. When we go after the negative items on your report, our paralegal engaged letters carry serious weight. Today's episode is brought to you by Lendit, and Lendit is a consumer guide that provides information to consumers so they know where to go when they are shopping for credit based on their score so that they can stop getting dinged on their credit report and increase their chances of getting approved for credit. Thanks for listening to Credit Recovery. Before we go, be sure to show some love to your favorite podcast by leaving us a review. Stay tuned next week for our next episode. Thanks for tuning in.